Thank you, Ben. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you here on a Monday morning. And firstly, I'd just like to reiterate what Ben said about thanking all of our council leaders, our cabinet members, and our hundreds and hundreds of councillors for the incredible hard work they've put in. It's not easy at the best of times, but under the levels of scrutiny that we've enjoyed, it's made it particularly important to thank them and appreciate that. Now, some of you were here back in November when I gave an update on Doge so far, and you'll recall I had a sort of footballing analogy. We're elected for a 4-year term. If you say that's the equivalent of a 90-minute football match. Here we are, March 26. We're 19 minutes into the game. 19 minutes into the game, and our team players, they encountered a pitch that had a few bumps in it, not great playing conditions. But they're doing a fantastic job, a couple of early stumbles, but they're getting used to how things are progressing. And our friends in the press, they're sort of a baying pack on the touchlines in the early minutes of the game. But actually now they've calmed down a bit. We've appeared less on the front page of the Financial Times recently. And goodness me, hasn't our squad size increased? May last year, we had 804 members of the squad, 804 councillors. We've now got some 976, I think, at the last count. And this is a key thing. By-elections since last May. We've won 76 of them. We've won more by-elections than the Conservatives, Labour and the Greens put together. Just think about that in terms of voters continuing to express their preference for reform. Now, what have we achieved so far? What are our successes? Well, I think it's a bit like, given that I'm a Liverpool fan, Mo Salah, we've achieved 5 incredible goals. And in footballing terms, they're all absolute screamers. Goal number 1 is that we have saved in the very first year, in fact, just in the first 10 months or so, we've been saving and delivering savings of some £325 million plus, day one to now. That is a massive, massive achievement. And we are very, very proud of that. So just some of those, for example, whether it's saving tens of millions on a waste contract in County Durham, whether it's saving tens of millions on an IT contract in Lincolnshire, millions and millions of pounds savings on taxi services in Lancashire. Or indeed, given the incompetence of the Tories, Kent County Council, there, under new direction, discovered that in the area of adult social care, a statutory requirement, of course, people said you can't save any money there. We discovered that actually the care providers had just been ramping up with no checking whatsoever of the invoices, increased some 80% in the last 5 years alone, already by calling them in, by renegotiating those contracts and saying, this is not good enough, you're ripping off Kent taxpayers, we're delivering on many millions of savings, and that will increase in Kent. So significant savings being achieved in year 1. The second goal is just the issue of service improvement, how actually people are feeling. And just a couple of examples for you. In Northants, it's been nominated, shortlisted for an award as the most improved council. In Staffordshire, Ofsted have recently written to the council confirming that under new political administration, new political leadership, there's been a clear recognition of the importance of improving children's services. Very proud of that indeed. In Leicestershire, for example, the backlog of educational health and care plans, EHCPs, has been reduced by some 50% plus, including the use of AI. And that, I think, is just an interesting, important pointer to the future and how AI can improve services for all of our council residents. Just a few simple examples. I gave a press conference also on the vitally important and very sensitive issue of special educational needs and disabilities. The government's produced a white paper, And whilst there's much that should reassure parents within that, we've got a working group looking closely at it. We think that some of these reforms could actually happen and be delivered faster, and that would help parents and, most importantly, children. And then if we move on to the third goal, well, looking ahead to 26, 27, and yes, we've identified savings within our budgets of some £400 million plus. That is a massive, massive amount of money that our councils will now go to deliver, including lower employer pension contributions of tens of millions of pounds. I'll come back to that shortly. And then goal number 4, and this is the big one. And if you look on the screen to my right, to your left, you will see that, yes, reform is the big winner because we have the lowest council tax rises of any of the major parties by an enormous margin. There we are, our majority councils, 3.94%, at least 20% lower than the next candidate, the next party, the Labour Party, at 4.71%. So despite all of the nonsense that was printed in the press over months and months that we were going to have all our councils would rise their taxes by 4.99%, actually there you are. There's the average, 3.94. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Oh, no. No, let's look at County Durham, 1.99%. Until last Thursday, was clearly the leader in the country, just pipped to the post right at the wire by one other. But that's a remarkable achievement. Lincolnshire, despite everybody saying it was going to be 4.99, 2.9%. I suggest that journalists should listen to reform, not listen to the nonsense from opposition councillors. And we had Leicestershire, 2.99%, another fantastic result. Here's a couple of extraordinary results too. Lancashire, 3.8%, the lowest rise for a decade. The lowest rise for a decade in Lancashire, and not to be outdone, Nottinghamshire County Council also, 3.99%, their lowest rise for a decade. So I think there's a pretty clear message here, folks. If you want lower council tax rises, if you want to save money, vote reform. It is as simple as that. The evidence is in, the data is there. If you want to save money, vote reform. It is crystal clear. It's a remarkable achievement. Then the fifth goal, one that I think is, whilst not glamorous, rarely talked about, in numerical terms, in numbers, potentially the most important. Yes, I refer to the issue of the local government pension schemes, where the numbers are mind-boggling. The total value of the LGPS, cumulative, across the 98 funds, as we speak, some £500 billion. Amongst friends, that's £500 billion. Impossible to know how big that is. But if I told you that this is a scandal of overcharging, of underperformance against the benchmark to the tune of billions of pounds a year, that I first exposed last September, and subsequent investigations have made me even more concerned, you'll understand why I've called for the actuaries to update their actuarial valuations on a one-year basis to the 31st March 2026, because the markets have moved a lot, and frankly, having looked at their valuations, some of them are nothing short of negligent. I'll repeat that. Some of those actuarial valuations are at best incompetent, at worst negligent. And it's to the expense of the council taxpayer that I am most excised. So I've called for these actuarial valuations to be redone on a one-year basis. And surprise, surprise, it's not gone down very well with some of the officers and some of the actuarial valuers. The power of the blob has come back at me and says, that's not a good idea, Richard. Well, if it's going to save council taxpayers money, it sure as is a good idea, and we should do it. Frankly, these valuations, particularly with AI now, it would be better and easier and cheaper to update them every single year. What's happening is these actuarial valuers are applying overprudence on overprudence. And whilst the beneficiaries receive identical rights, benefits and entitlements, of course, the council taxpayer is being ripped off. And I've had enough of it. It's an absolute scandal in plain sight that no other MP has focused on and talked about until I came along. The numbers are utterly mind-boggling. We could potentially, over the next couple of years, reduce employer contributions by some £300 million a year in our councils alone, whilst protecting all of the rights, the benefits and entitlements. That is the battle we're going to have with these actuarial valuers. And this is really important. And I want people to understand it. I know it's not glamorous, but it's so, so important. To be able to save those sort of numbers in our councils alone potentially would mean that there will be almost no council tax rises in many of our councils. That's what I'm focused on. Quite remarkable. Just on this issue alone, that no one understands, that no one's focused on, no one's negotiated on, that could reduce the council tax rises to almost zero. I'm not guaranteeing zero, don't misinterpret me. But I tell you what, this is absolutely worth looking at. And we will look at it and challenge people and be a critical friend to everybody involved in the process. So there we are. 19 minutes into this 90-minute match, folks. We're 5-0 up, as far as I'm concerned. And I think people can see that if you want better services, vote reform. If you want to save money, vote reform. And the opportunity for millions of voters on May the 7th is to enjoy a reform council, get better services, get better value, save money, and have reform running your council as a majority. So that's what I wanted to say as the update on where we are, 10 months in. And of course, being reform, we take questions from everybody in the press. But I thought I'd just touch base first on a couple of issues around the important issue of tax. Because I was lucky enough yesterday morning to appear on the front page of the Sunday Times. And the journalist made all sorts of inferences about me. He then did tweet a little bit later in the day, and I'll just read out his tweet because it's quite important. It's from Gabriel Pogrund. Richard Tice is correct. He paid tax as required. You might ask, why did he put me on the front page of the Sunday Times, given that was his conclusion by the end of the afternoon? Maybe he was just trying to smear me, or what? I just repeat, Richard Tice is correct. He paid tax as required. But we've entered a new world where there is a moral imperative now in the United Kingdom that you shouldn't just pay tax as required. No, no, no. No, you are a naughty person, boy or girl, unless you pay the maximum tax you could possibly pay. Oh, yes. You should now reorganise your fares, according to Gabriel Pogrund and Dan Needle, so that you pay the absolute maximum tax possible. Apparently, it's a bad idea, according to Gabriel Pogrund, to invest in a pension scheme and save money for your retirement. That now is apparently, according to the Sunday Times, a bad idea. You're a naughty person if you save money in a pension scheme. That's the world we've got to, folks. I would gently suggest, if that's the world we've got to, don't be surprised if people are saying something's gone badly wrong with the UK economy and with the whole modus operandi of people in the UK. Don't be surprised if people suddenly say, well, am I right staying here? If the country's broken, which Britain is broken, and if I'm now obligated to pay not what I'm required to pay by way of tax, but morally I need to pay the maximum, don't be surprised if people say, I'm going to pop off somewhere else and live somewhere else. That's where we're at, folks. That's the challenge we've got with regard to tax. Oh, and then overnight, I discovered, goodness me, the heavens opened and gave Richard a gift. Yes, indeed. The Labour Party Properties Limited is a company that's owned properties for decades. And it turns out in the last 25 years, Labour Party Properties Limited has earned over £30 million in rental income. Proper money, 30 million. How much corporation tax, given that the Sunday Times have been criticising me for not paying corporation tax, how much corporation tax do we think Labour Party Properties Limited has paid in 25 years? Any guesses? Zero. A big, fat zero. Because their property costs and their administration expenses, coincidentally, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, have matched or exceeded the rental income. I mean, talk about kettle, pot, talk about hypocrisy. Utterly extraordinary. Oh, I nearly forgot. They haven't filed their accounts for the last year in question in the appropriate time frame. No, they're 6 months overdue. 6 months overdue on their accounts. So the chairman of the Labour Party, Anna Turley, who wrote to HMRC overnight, she, as we speak, is receiving a letter from me asking about consistency and transparency and the importance of public trust in political parties and their accounting. There really is no excuse for the Labour Party property companies' accounts to be 6 months overdue. And they've got some serious explanation to do as to why it's so expensive to manage those properties every single year. I'm a real estate guy. I know about property expenses. I know about administration expenses. And let me tell you, something stinks. And I would just remind Anna Turley that the last time there was a politically motivated HMRC investigation against one Richard Tice, it was exactly a decade ago. And it was all to do with the referendum. And one of David Cameron's Black Ops team suggested to HMRC that they investigate me. They did. It took a year. And guess what? Because of my innate caution, it turned out I'd overpaid. I'd overpaid by a 5-figure sum. So maybe that'll be the same this time around. Who knows? But Labour Party, I'll just gently say to you, if you want to take me on, fine. If you want to go to war with me, absolutely fine. I know who the winner will be. So, on that note, I'm